The call came like they so often do. Anxiety, tears, shame. This week, it was Section 8 rent for someone whose household has lost more than $400 in SNAP benefits this month. Other times, it has been daycare expenses for someone fleeing domestic violence, or utilities help when April comes around and there's no longer the winter reprieve from shutting off gas and electric. Internet to keep a remote job. After I go through my spiel, asking if they know about or have been to general assistance, sharing the limits of our funds and that we can't really help more than once a year, making clear that we don't deal in cash, but that we make payment directly to landlords or utilities or whoever the payee may be, and that we need some form of identification and a bill for our records. Once we've gone through all of that, and they're still on the line, I ask them to tell me the shape of what they're going through and their particular need. Often there were unexpected medical bills, a surgery that didn't go right and meant time off an hourly job, a disabled relative, a turn in the road they never saw coming. And when they learn there is help available, the relief, the tears of gratitude, it's like I can hear their nervous system settling right over the phone. Friends, why am I telling you a story about the pastor's discretionary fund, a fund that isn't funded by pledge dollars during stewardship season? Stick with me, and I think we will get there. Because when Jesus pulls the disciples aside and asks them to observe the giving of a widow, he is not teaching whole crowds of already poor and marginalized first century Palestinians about how to give to the temple. He's teaching his closest followers something about what God values, and that God's economy is different from Caesar's, different from Herod's, different from ours. God's economy is one that values the pennies of a widow. God's economy is one of equity, distributive justice, and grace. And the pastor's discretionary fund is just one way we participate in God's economy of distributive justice, distributing the wealth that we have for a more fair and equitable world. And it's one of the ways we participate in God's grace. The refugee ministry, the supply drive for the Oak Ridge neighborhood, grocery cards for our friends at Karen Acres Elementary School, those are some of the others. There are many more. Pledge dollars don't fund the discretionary fund, but as I was thinking about it, I realized without them, we wouldn't have a phone on which to receive calls for help, or a building to welcome folks in distress, or a salary and health insurance for an office coordinator to graciously receive people when they come, or a pastor who tries to speak grace to anxious and hurting folks while discerning how we might be helpful, redistributing wealth on behalf of this church. Pledge dollars fund our internet presence and phone lines so people can Google and call us. They fund Lori's position so there's someone on staff to staff the office when I'm not here to communicate with the community and keep things running smoothly. Pledge dollars keep the lights on and the heat running, which we need today, and the building and staff insured against catastrophe. Pledge dollars fund a lot of kind of banal and human stuff that allows for more encounters with the holy. So let's talk about pledging, what it means and what it doesn't. We start again with Jesus. Jesus is offering the disciples an object lesson about the ways God's values and economy differ from our cultural values and economy. The widow's gift is extraordinary. And if you are anything like me, you may have first learned this story in Sunday school with the widow as an exemplar of what our giving should look like. You may have also read Shel Silverstein's Giving Tree, about giving till you're just a stump. Now, the older I get, the less I think that that's what Jesus was about here. Please do not put your last 2 coins in the offering plate. You heard that right. Please don't do it. The church is not God. Please do not sacrifice your ultimate well-being to the institution. And a practice of regular sacrificial giving, of opening our hands and letting go, is an important part of both spiritual and financial health. Letting go of some of what we have increases a sense of freedom, abundance, and consent to the will of God in our lives, doing more and different than we could imagine. Do just a quick check-in with me. Take your hands and bunch them up into tight fists. How does your body feel when you're having a real tight fist? You feel that? You feel that? Now just open them. Do you feel the difference in your whole being? Can you feel the flow that accompanies openness and letting go? This is the physical posture that kind of accompanies our theology of giving. That we remember that all we have is gift and is meant to flow through us, not to get stopped up or stocked away in a basement or an attic, literal or metaphorical. Friends, pledges are an open hand to our community. They are our best guess about what we can give to support the mission of this church in the community over the next year. They are between you and God and our financial secretary, Steve Looney. Thank you, Steve, who pulls together the numbers so we can set a budget for the coming year. If you are new to the United Church of Christ, all of the resources that we have to spend on ministry, everything it takes to operate, comes from the collective giving of our congregation. There's nothing coming down the pike from higher up. Some religious communities talk about tithing because there are places in the Bible where it talks about giving the first fruits, the first 10% of our labors back to God. And in a lot of progressive churches, we talk about a modern tithe, giving 5% to direct service organizations who are doing work in the community that we care about, like what our kids were talking about with Tana for the noisy offering, like food pantries, animal rescues, care of the homeless, and then giving another 5% to the church. Now, if you are like me in this economy, those numbers can feel like a stretch. So please hear this invitation to pledge not as a bar by which you will be measured, but as a way of throwing in with this community, as a way of saying, I belong and we belong to each other. If it is possible to increase your pledge from 0 to 1% or from 3 to 4, beautiful, we will take it. And if you're just holding on and need to hold steady, we get that too. No matter the gift, you are beloved and precious in God's sight, just as you are. And here is the rub. God's economy and the human economy, they're not the same. There will always be a tension there between the practical, the financial, how do we pay the bills, and the spiritual, how do we show up and share out what we have. We exist within a capitalist hustle and grind, doing our best to give faithfully so we can continue to exist here close to the corner of 70th and Douglas, so people know that we are here in the community for the good of the community, so we can redistribute and participate in the economy of God. An economy that values the inherent dignity and worth of all human life. An economy that works to support and uplift those who are often sidelined or marginalized by a culture that values what we can produce over who we are and is ready to throw us to the rubbish bin when we're not producing anymore. We have a pledge goal this year to increase the number of people or households who are pledging from 79, last year's number, to 85 this year. So if you feel a sense of belonging here and want to support the work we do together, whether you're pledging a great deal or have a pledge closer to the widow or those first Urbandale Community Circle members giving a penny a day, gifts that are highly valued by God, throw in with us to say, I belong. We belong to each other. I trust that what we can do together is so much bigger than what I could do on my own. And God, please use what I've got to bless others. You can pledge by filling out and submitting a physical pledge card. They went out in the mail last week. There are some at the back of the sanctuary. Or by doing the same online. There are QR codes in your pews to take you directly to our giving page. Friends, with so much going on in the world, it's obvious that we do not know what's around the bend for us. But when we give without all the answers, in response to God's ongoing work in us and in the world, when we let go of a bit of what we have, and with that letting go, we let go of the scarcity mindset that is so prevalent in the richest country in the world. When we do all that, we make room for God to do something with our gifts and with the space in us that we've cleared out for the holy. The space in us that we clear out for God, this is what God values. This is where we encounter and become channels for grace. Thanks be to God. Amen.